NewDawn is a nation that was discussed about in the nation's NewDawn War documentary, in which I explained that NewDawn unfortunately collapsed due to economic constraints caused by the war. However, there may be some of you who have a rather large question. What is NewDawn, and how did it come to be? So in this video, I will hopefully detail the history of NewDawn, from its beginning to the aftermath and beyond. So NewDawn's beginning takes place at the Thaylor's end. As stated in the Thaylor documentary, when Thaylor was deleted, there was a slew of towns that were forming into a bunch of little nations, or were joining other nations, such as South Scott and NewDawn. Now, NewDawn didn't directly come from Thaylor, as NewDawn's pre-capital city, Leningrad, was part of Valkyrie for a time after Thaylor. The actual forming of NewDawn is assumed March 30th, 2020. However, there is a speculation that it originally started as a nation named America, but its name was changed later after a meeting took place discussing NewDawn creation. On April 6th, 2020, Papa V Lenin spammed Ollie J101's private DM to join the voice chat of the Discord. This meeting itself was between 6 members who were deciding on the nation. J101, Cool Crab 123, Papa V Lenin, Blake 002, Raffy 6, and Sunshine Girl 123. The end result led to the 5 leaders, basically taking Raffy 6 out of the same group, who became the 5 kings of NewDawn. However, that changed a little as Sunshine Girl 123 left only hours later due to, as Papa V Lenin states here, me and Ollie argued too much at the time. This also dragged at the hopes of Midgard joining as well, which Lenin blew. So with that said, at that point stood the 4 kings, also known as the King Council, in which the reign of NewDawn began. It started off pretty well as it held Leningrad and Liberty, 2 of the largest towns on the /T list, which shot it up directly to the 5th spot on the /M list. As time went on, they acquired a multitude of towns and soon became a pretty good setup, in which they got 3rd spot on the end list. This achievement was announced on the NewDawn Discord here, which you can see the snapshot. So this is going to be more or less episode 1, but with an added detail and it being shortened a bit more. Basically, the war was caused mainly by Papa V Lenin having a massive blowout, Krakatoa! Calling everyone in the entire server a Nazi, and screaming other anti-empire stuff. What caused Lenin to explode was not instant 4, so here is what can be found of it. Just before he exploded, his land, called Lenin Land or LL officially, was being briefed by citizens of a couple other towns. Under presumption, Lenin blamed Nia for the grief of his territory, apparently by placing a block of water, destroying some heads. You know, and at this point, basically something happened there. I give up at this point. Trailing back onto this track, this then brought the other kings to yell back at him, and soon it got to the point of where Lenin erupted into general chat. After that mess, Lenin was kicked out of NewDawn. Get the fuck out! Can't you see we're closed? Due to lack of photo and video evidence, we can only view this as an assumption of what happened, and probably the only thing that can happen until other scenarios can be given. Nevertheless, even with Lenin gone after his raging chat, the damage was already done. Soon the nations of Empire, South Scott, the Black Horsemen, Georgia, and Ancient got stuck into an economic embargo war against NewDawn. The result was approximately 3 days until NewDawn became archived, as the first towns jumped ship and left the nation in the sink. NewDawn's history doesn't stop there. While NewDawn itself was archived and decaying, the ex-NewDawnian staff and towns went to other places. Generally, the main towns went to other nations, except for Leningrad, which remained fairly independent. Now, some of the ex-NewDawnian staff and towns did become part of Thaylor, but that fell apart quickly as documented in this documentary. So there was still a general circulation in terms of affiliation, until NewDawn 2.0 came out. Jupiter. Wrong Jupiter. Jupiter was a short-lived nation that consisted of 6 towns, 3 of which were the largest on the server, and surprisingly hit second place, overstepping Ancient. This was a pretty good move that could have made NewDawn look lame, but as stated, it wasn't last long. Soon Liberty and Leningrad pulled out of their own nation, leaving Jupiter decay until its collapse in the first week of June. Now these ex-NewDawnian folk decided to form something a lot larger than a nation. They formed their own server, the planet. Now this isn't any kind of form of advertisement for the server, I'm just giving out the historical thing here. Now, for those who do want to know what it is, the planet is mainly a 1.50.2 version of MineSuperior in a sense. So if anything, there are only a few differences. But this server was soon found out, which caused Blink002 and OllyOlly66 to be banned for having a competing server since they were the owners of it. Crab123 formed his own nation called North of Scott, which appears to be an anti-South of Scott based nation. It's also probably a joke on North Korea, South Korea, that kind of crap. Anyway, however, the nation was recently gone under some inactivity due to Crab123 getting permanently banned over dox threats and ban evasion. Nevertheless, North of Scott may be the closest thing on the server to NewDawn. As for towns like Leningrad, Liberty, and Kentucky, they still exist. Leningrad split into 2 parts. Hell, which comprised of the population of Leningrad, and Leningrad itself, which is for archival purposes to assumingly keep the buildings and works under some form of protection. Liberty was renamed to Legacy, and Kentucky still exists as its original self. What became of the small ex-NewDawnian towns is anybody's guess, but most likely they're just hanging around the server as usual. But in the end, everything must come to a pass. NewDawn officially fell in the 3rd week of June. Whether it be by decay or manual removal, this officially marks the end of NewDawn as a nation. So with the general history out of the way, this will now focus on a more interesting topic I did with Thaler, discussing more internal parts of NewDawn. So to begin with, NewDawn has an unusual way of having a rule. NewDawn has a king called NewDawn King, in which is controlled by the King's Council. This is a unique way to run a nation, as it gives control to a certain group of people, not so much as just one person running the whole show, as a lot of other nations have it. Another point of view is how NewDawn functions more democratically than other nations, such as electing replacements for fired or retiring staff, even though one of the kings is a... They seem to function well with it. The only issues that stick out with NewDawn is probably their toxicity and small crimes. Now, before anyone starts throwing rocks at me, you know who these are. Every nation has their own brand of toxicity and crime list, such as Thaler and Ancient with town poaching, the Vatican for stealing a shit ton of money in spawners, and the Vanguard's Nazi population. With that said, let's begin. The first obvious thing in NewDawn is their anti-Empire sentiment. This is mainly because of the assumption that a majority of everyone in Empire is a Nazi, or previously a part of Vanguard. Now this isn't a really uncommon belief due to the historical context that Vanguard had Nazi thieves and even actual Nazis in them, and after its expanding, these towns merged with Empire, and some of these examples of that Nazi imagery exist today, as here's some snapshots worth. But back to NewDawn, the most anti-Empire people were in the NewDawn's King Council and staff, and while it is attempted to keep this within staff, the most vocal one about it was Papa V. Lenin. Now there is a little in terms of crimes to go through. Lennon states that he and AP and Griffin were poaching towns in the early stages of NewDawn, but didn't know about it, and it was learned the hard way, similar to Alpha and Tsunami. However, Griffin denies doing this, so it's mainly a speculation. Another incident will be Raffi 6 appearing to be hiring people with X-rays. Now this is under assumption, but judging by these screenshots of Ollie and Raffi talking to someone on it, it appears suspicious. One rumor that can be confirmed is Cannibal Slayer here saying that all he actually offered is sell Leningrad to him for real money. Now this is technically a real life deal. However, because it was sold for actual in-game money, this deal cannot be penalized. So with all this, we can basically state, yes, NewDawn had an impact on the server, it was not life-shattering, it wasn't like Empire, but it left something. Now in terms of coming back, not sure if it will. In episode 1, Xenoblade stated that it would not be tolerated if NewDawn did come back. And seeing as they have their own server, it's possible that NewDawn will not come back. But for now, we can look to another Scott for that. Thank you for your time watching this. If you enjoyed it, do like, comment, subscribe, and suggest any kinds of topics you might like. And do go to MineSuperior Towny-Exalted and punch in the command/T-spawn Mandoria to donate money to the donation area to fund these videos that you like to watch for your entertainment and for your anger issues. Credits to Papa V. Lennon, the Judge, and Cannibal Slayer for the info and evidence presented. Thanks also to the Judge here for helping edit this video. I will do the NewDawn tribute for its peace and exalted history. Thank you.
главным вопросом, который стоит перед партией коммунистов, который больше всего привлек к себе внимание, действительно первым вопросом слоган с эксплуататором богатых крестьянам. Средних крестьян становится больше не стало установить отношения полного мира и согласия. Понятно,